As you come up on this milestone and kind of think back on the last 10 years, what do you feel like are the biggest lessons that you've learned, and how has your thinking evolved? And this could be around venture, around the role of design in venture over the last 10 years.
It's maybe obvious, but I think this is not just for venture, but I think also just for people, and it's this idea of playing to your strengths. So I think for most of my life, like teachers and at work, it's always been like, hey, Ben's not good at X, or he could be stronger at X, so let's work on that. Hey, history, like I never gravitated towards. It's like, okay, so let's work on that, right? Or so. But I think the thing there's a power to playing to your strengths that, to me, now coming into year 8, 9, 10, depending on where, like, Designer Fund actually started in 2012. The first fund was 2014. So depending on
Yeah.
where we were actually incorporated in November of 2012. So, but we started activity before that. So I don't know, like we're right around the 10-year mark. And for me, the idea of playing to our strengths has been, because you come into this and you start interviewing people like John Doerr and these luminaries, and you say, oh, like, how do I become that person? Right. And those are the heroes. Or Warren Buffett. Everyone wants to be the next Warren Buffett, right?
It's the emulation game.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't need to be the next Warren Buffett. Won't be Warren Buffett. Like, it'll be someone totally different, and they'll be going about it in a totally different way. And so I think I've gotten a lot more comfortable in kind of doing it our way, right? So okay, so here's a good example. So, like, most funds, if you're successful, the expectation is just get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Well, guess what? Like, your fund size, though, is your strategy. And so Designer Fund, for 6 years, or sorry, 8 years now, we've been building all these relationships with great lead funds, and they're generalist funds, and they do all the things that, it's like, they know about how to build great sales teams. They know about how to do go to market well. And it's, as we've been in this, like, we've learned those things too, but I'm certainly not like the expert. I know where where I'm deep, and I know where I know enough to be dangerous, but where I recommend experts. And so there's this expectation, like, if you're a small fund, get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden you're just something very different. And guess what? Instead, so we're really collaborative. Enrique and I, just in our essence, we love to collaborate, and I think most designers do. Well, what happens if you're a lead fund that is also super into collaborating? Well, that kind of doesn't work. That's really
Hmm.
tough, because if you're a lead fund, there's only one lead,
Oh,
only
it's a
one
zero
lead per
sum
company,
game. You've
zero sum
changed
game.
games.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, yeah. And so, but for example, if you're not a lead, like, and this happened to us recently, like, there's someone that raised money, and they said to me, like, hey, we're saving a 500K check for you guys, but we have 6 leads. Help me pick a lead, right?
Wow.
Well, that's really powerful, right? That we can do that. But guess what? If our fund was too big, we could, like, if I was the 7th term sheet going up against, Sequoia and Greylock and those, can I out Sequoia, out Greylock? It's like, everyone's like, who can build the next Sequoia? Like, you don't necessarily need to be building the next Sequoia to beat Sequoia, or to do as good as, and even just beat Sequoia. Like, even saying that, what are you doing? Like, it's just like, do you want to be a good investor?
Why?
What
Yeah.
plays to your strengths? And play that game. Play the game the way you want to play it. And so for Enrique and I, we realized, like, let's make sure that our funds are of the size that allow us to be collaborative. And just because LPs want to put more money to work and are seeing great returns from us, and want us to build bigger funds, that's not the reason to put together a bigger fund. The bigger reason is because you want to be a lead fund. But if you don't, if that doesn't play your strength, don't do that. So I think that's the thing. To me, one of the things I've learned is just kind of own, the power of being a designer investor and what you're good at, and do that, and don't try to be, don't be like, oh, I'll put on the vest and I'll talk that game, and, like, I'll outdo them at their game. Like, do your own, outdo them at your game and make them play your game. So I think that's the thing that I've kind of really come to realize. But it's taken a long time, man, because it's like, you basically feel like a fish out of, you feel like, there's the imposter syndrome. And VCs are, for all the shit that we say about VCs, most of them are really fucking smart. Most of them are really fucking driven. Most of them are really good at sales. You don't get to be in this business unless, right? And most of them have a ton of confidence, for better or worse, right? So like that's the system of people that you're going into, and it's really easy to feel like, oh crap, like I didn't go to that school, or I didn't spend 8 years at that top fund or whatever it is. Um, but like, but you own kind of the things that you're strong at, that every investor would be like, whoa, okay, well, I can't do what they do, right? Like most
Yeah.
investors can't build products the way we build products, right?
No, not
So
at all.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's the thing over the years that I've come to kind of find more peace with. It's like, hey, you belong here, and in fact, and by the way, our returns are like top quartile return. Like, not only do we belong, we're like better than most investors, right? So like, people have always talked like, should designers code? And maybe the next thing is, should designers invest? And so far, the answer I think is yes.